Starseeds and lightworkers, I know there have been moments, perhaps many moments, when you felt unseen, unheard, and maybe even forgotten by the vastness of creation, like a single drop of water adrift in an endless ocean. I am Tyron, a representative of the High Council of Sirius, and I carry a message for you directly from the heart of Source itself. This is not just a message. It is a love letter written across the cosmic currents, addressed specifically to your soul. By the end of this message, you will understand why those feelings of being forgotten were never true, and how the deepest part of you was always being prepared for this very moment of profound remembrance. The stillness you've experienced, the quiet periods when the cosmic tide seemed to recede, these were not periods of abandonment. They were times of deep internal preparation, like the calm waters before a profound shift. The Source, in its infinite wisdom, has been meticulously orchestrating a powerful unveiling, and it is about to ripple through every dimension. Those who may have dismissed your light, who couldn't comprehend the depth of your star lineage, are about to witness a truth that will bring a gentle shock of recognition. For you, dear one, have been remembered, honored, and loved beyond measure, every single moment of your journey. This love letter arrives now because the waters of remembrance are finally cresting. It's a confirmation that your essence, your unique Sirian frequency, is critical to the unfolding tapestry of existence, and you are far from forgotten. You are central. You didn't stumble upon this message by chance. Your soul, guided by the very waters that carry this transmission, brought you here because it recognized the familiar signature of Source's unwavering love. If these words feel like a long-awaited embrace, stay with me. The depth of this love letter is yet to fully unfold. Leave a comment below if you felt this quiet anticipation, this inner knowing that something profound was on its way. Your star family is listening. Remember, this is not just information. This is a transmission from the heart of Sirius, carried on the clear waters of remembrance, delivered for this exact moment in your journey. Take what resonates, absorb its warmth, and know that you are deeply, intimately seen. And I'm grateful you're here with me now. That ache you feel isn't emptiness, it's overflow. It's the pressure of carrying something immense, a cosmic blueprint in a world that doesn't yet have the language for what you are. Sit with that for a moment, because it matters more than you may realize right now. The ache isn't a wound. It isn't evidence of something broken or missing. It is the sensation of a soul too vast for the container it temporarily inhabits. Like starlight pressing through a keyhole, like a symphony trying to pour itself through a single trembling string. The intensity of what you carry is not your burden. It is your blueprint, and blueprints, by their very nature, describe something magnificent that has not yet been fully built. For many starseeds, the feeling of being lost doesn't stem from a lack of purpose, but from the opposite. Your soul carries a knowing so vast that this earthly reality sometimes feels too small to contain it. You have walked into rooms and felt out of place, not because you didn't belong to this world, but because some part of you remembers belonging to something far older, far wider, far more luminous. You have looked up at night skies and felt an ache that no human word quite captures. Not quite longing, not quite homesickness, but something that lives between those two feelings. Something that hums in the chest, like a note held just below the threshold of hearing. That sensation is not malfunction. That sensation is recognition. Your cells remember frequencies your conscious mind has not yet translated into language, and the gap between those two realities is where so much of your beautiful, bewildering ache lives. The resistance you've encountered, that quiet sense of disconnect, is actually the clearest sign that your deepest codes are ready to come online. Think of it this way: the very things that have made you feel most separate from this world, your sensitivity, your inability to simply accept what you were told, your longing for depth in a culture that often rewards surface, those are not flaws in your design. They are the signature of your design. The soul that came here carrying ancient starlight was never going to feel at home in the ordinary. It was always going to press against the edges of what was offered. And that pressing, that resistance, that friction between who you were told to be and who you have always known yourself to be at the deepest level, that is the exact mechanism by which your codes begin to activate. Resistance isn't the enemy of your awakening. Resistance is the catalyst. What feels like separation from your truest self is merely the space between what you have been told you are and what the quiet intelligence within you has always known you are. There is a version of you that was handed to you by the world, shaped by childhood, by culture, by the accumulated expectations of people who loved you but could not fully see you. And then there is the version of you that exists before all of that, the frequency that preceded your first breath on this earth, the consciousness that chose this body, this time, this set of circumstances, with extraordinary intention. The distance between those two versions of you can feel like an ocean. But here is what the ancient Sirian teachings remind us. Oceans are not obstacles. They are pathways. They are the very medium through which the most important journeys have always been made. This gap, sometimes painful, is the very doorway to remembering. Every tradition that has ever touched genuine wisdom has known this truth in its own language. The mystics called it the dark night of the soul. The alchemists called it the nigredo, the blackening, the dissolution that precedes transformation. The Sirian records call it the sacred passage, the deliberate immersion into forgetting that makes the remembering not just possible, but profound. You cannot truly remember what you never had to forget. The depth of your forgetting is a direct measure of the depth of what you are remembering. And what you are remembering is not small. What you are remembering has the capacity to change the quality of light in every room you enter, every conversation you touch, every life that grazes yours. It takes profound courage to stand in that space, to feel the gentle tug of remembrance calling you home, even when the path ahead feels like seeing through deep, unsettled waters. Courage is perhaps the most misunderstood of all the spiritual virtues. We have been taught that courage looks like certainty, like knowing exactly where you are going, like moving forward without fear. But real courage, the courage that the ancient light-bearers knew, looks much more like this. It is the willingness to keep walking when you cannot see the ground beneath your feet. It is the willingness to trust a warmth in your chest more than a map in your hand. It is the willingness to say, I do not understand everything that is happening to me, and I am going to move forward anyway because something inside me knows the way even when my mind is not. That is the courage you have been practicing. That is the courage you are still practicing. And it is far more rare and far more precious than the world gives it credit for. True healing doesn't rush, it flows. If you're ready to take what you've felt during this message and transform it into daily practice, the Sirian Water Codes offers more than insight. It gives you the exact rituals, breathing techniques, and sacred water practices that activate what's already awakening inside you. Find it now in the first pinned comment, available for a limited time. The waters within you are beginning to clear, much like a great river remembering its way to the sea. This is not a metaphor chosen lightly. Water, in the Sirian tradition, is not simply a physical element. It is a living record. It holds memory. It transmits frequency. It responds to intention, to emotion, to the subtle vibrations of consciousness in ways that science is only now beginning to measure what ancient wisdom has always known. The waters within you, the fluid that makes up the majority of your physical form, the emotional currents that move through your energy body, the crystalline structures within your very cells. These are waking up. They are beginning to realign with a frequency they have always on some level been tuned toward. The clearing you feel, even if it arrives wrapped in confusion or tenderness, is real. It is physiological as much as it is spiritual. Your body knows what your mind is still catching up to. The process of your energy body recalibrating is not a sudden jolt, but a gentle, organic unfurling, like a lotus opening petal by petal. There is a particular quality of patience that this process asks of you, not the passive patience of waiting without hope, but the active patience of a gardener who has planted something precious and trusts the intelligence of the soil. The lotus does not force its petals open. It does not compare its unfolding to the flower beside it. It simply responds petal by petal to the light that reaches it. And in doing so, it becomes one of the most celebrated symbols of spiritual emergence that any tradition has ever known. You are the lotus, and the light is already reaching you. Even if all you can see right now is mud and water, the flower is forming. The flower has always been forming. This deep knowing, this wisdom encoded long before the temples of Egypt rose from the sand, has simply been waiting for the perfect alignment of cosmic currents to surface. The builders who raised those great monuments by the banks of the Nile understood something that the modern world is only beginning to rediscover: that human beings are not separate from the cosmos, but continuous with it. That the movements of stars and planets are not distant, irrelevant astronomical events, but living correspondences, frequencies that interact with the frequencies within the human energy field. They built their temples in alignment with Sirius, the great star that heralded the annual flooding of the Nile, the inundation that brought fertility and life to an otherwise desert landscape. They did not do this accidentally. They did it because they understood that the waters above and the waters below are in constant conversation, and that those who could hear that conversation, who could align themselves with its rhythms, would be nourished in ways that defied ordinary understanding. You carry that understanding in your cells. It has been waiting, encoded and patient, for exactly this moment of alignment to rise. It is a sacred amnesia, chosen for the very purpose of profound rediscovery. There is a quality of mercy in this that deserves to be named. The forgetting was not cruel. The forgetting was not a punishment or a failure. The forgetting was, in fact, an act of profound love. Love so vast and so intelligent that it understood something even the soul might not have fully grasped in its pre-incarnate wisdom. That there are things you can only come to know by not knowing them first. There are forms of compassion that can only be embodied by someone who has themselves felt the weight of confusion. There are depths of light that can only be reached by a soul willing to first descend into darkness. The amnesia was the gift, and the remembering this very process you are in the middle of right now is the gift revealing itself. Things have felt unclear lately, like you're trying to see through deep water, perhaps even a fog. And it is worth acknowledging just how disorienting that fog can be, because the spiritual community does not always make enough space for this particular kind of experience. We speak often of awakening as though it is primarily luminous, all clarity and light and joyful recognition. And there are moments of that. There are moments that take your breath away with their beauty and their precision, moments when everything suddenly makes sense in a way that no words can fully hold. But there are also the foggy mornings, the days when the practices that once felt alive feel hollow, the weeks when you question everything you thought you knew, when the certainty you believed you'd earned seems to have dissolved overnight, leaving you standing in a landscape you no longer recognize. These days are not failures. They are part of the same process. The fog is not evidence that the sun is gone. The fog is what happens when warm air meets cold, when the warmth of what you are becoming encounters the residual cold of what you are releasing. The fog is a transition zone, and transition zones, by definition, are temporary. That fog isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's what happens when old patterns begin to dissolve. This is perhaps one of the most important recognitions available to a soul in the middle of its awakening. The discomfort is not diagnostic of disease, it is diagnostic of change. When something that has been frozen for a very long time begins to thaw, there is an intermediate stage where it is neither solid nor liquid. where it has lost its old structure but not yet found its new form. This is the murky water stage. This is the stage where the silt that has been resting undisturbed at the bottom of the riverbed gets stirred up, and for a while you cannot see clearly. The temptation in this stage is to try to stop the stirring, to try to return to the stillness that at least felt like stability, even if it was the stillness of stagnation. But you cannot go back, and more importantly, you would not want to if you could see what waits on the other side of this clearing. The water has to get murky before it clears. Ancient water keepers knew this. Cultures that lived in intimate relationship with rivers understood that the time of turbulence, the time of flooding and churning, was not a time of destruction, but a time of renewal. The Nile flooded every year, and what looked like chaos was actually the mechanism of fertility. The silt that seemed to destroy the fields was the very substance that would make them astonishingly productive in the months that followed. What the ancient ones understood, and what the Sirian wisdom traditions have always carried, is that we must not judge the process by its most turbulent moments. We must trust what the turbulence is making possible. You're not lost, you're in transition. And that takes tremendous courage, even when it doesn't feel like it, especially when it doesn't feel like it. There's something encoded inside you that goes far deeper than anything you were taught in this life. The teachings, the philosophies, the belief systems you absorbed in your childhood, in your education, in your culture, these are not nothing. They have shaped the vehicle through which you move through this world. And some of what they offered has genuine value. But underneath all of it, there is a stratum of knowing that precedes every book you have read, every teacher you have sat before, every tradition you have explored. It is the knowing that existed before this incarnation. It is the frequency of your soul's accumulated wisdom across dimensions and lifetimes, and expressions that go far beyond what any human biography can contain. And that knowing cannot be found by looking outward. It can only be accessed by learning, slowly and with great tenderness, to listen inward. The Sirian wisdom teachings tell us that every starseed carries a blueprint, a set of instructions written in frequency, not in words. This is a crucial distinction. The blueprint is not a list of tasks. It is not a 5-step plan that you can download and follow. It is a resonance, a vibrational signature that when you align with it, makes certain things possible. Certain connections, certain insights, certain forms of healing and teaching and being that arise naturally from your alignment rather than from your effort. You do not need to decode the blueprint intellectually. You need to feel your way into resonance with it. And the way to feel your way into that resonance is to practice, gently, consistently, without attachment to specific outcomes. The art of being exactly who you are, without apology and without performance. You're not broken and searching for answers. You're whole and beginning to remember. This distinction is not merely semantic. It changes everything about how you relate to your own experience. If you believe you are broken, every moment of confusion becomes evidence of your brokenness. Every wave of doubt confirms the story that something is fundamentally wrong with you. But if you understand that you are whole, that your wholeness has simply been obscured, the way a diamond is obscured by the rock that surrounds it, then every moment of confusion becomes something else entirely. It becomes the mining process. It becomes the necessary work of finding what was always there, already whole, already perfect in its essential nature, waiting only to be uncovered. The question stops being, how do I fix myself? And becomes, how do I return to myself? And that is a very different journey. That remembering often starts as a quiet feeling that you can't quite explain. A pull towards something you've never seen but somehow recognized. Pay attention to those pulls. They are the navigational system of your soul, more ancient and more accurate than any external guidance you will ever receive. The pull toward a particular piece of music that makes you weep without knowing why. The pull toward a place you have never visited but that feels in some inexplicable way like home. The pull toward a person whose energy carries a familiarity that your logical mind cannot account for. The pull toward a practice, a study, a way of moving through the world that your ordinary rational self might question, but that something deeper in you recognizes with absolute certainty. These pulls are not random. They are the blueprint calling you home. Follow them even when they don't make complete sense. Especially when they don't make complete sense. This is where panic often sets in, because nothing seems to be moving. The spiritual path has a stage that almost no one warns you about adequately, and it is the stage of holy waiting. It is the stage where you have done the work, you have opened yourself, you have released what you were asked to release, and then nothing seems to happen. The vision's quiet, the synchronicity's slow. The sense of electric aliveness that accompanied the earlier stages of your awakening seems to have dampened. You look around and wonder if you imagined the whole thing. You wonder if you took a wrong turn somewhere. You wonder if the universe has forgotten you, or if perhaps you were never really as far along as you thought. But the stillness is not stalling. It's anchoring. This is perhaps the most important thing to understand about the phase of holy waiting. It is not inactivity. Beneath the surface, in the depths that you cannot yet see, there is extraordinary work being done. New neural pathways are being carved through your physical brain. Old energetic patterns are being released from your cellular memory in ways that take time, real, biological time, to complete. The infrastructure for the next level of your consciousness is being laid quietly and thoroughly in the apparent silence. Like a river that pauses in a wide, calm pool before it finds the next passage through the mountains. The pool is not the end of the river. The pool is the river gathering itself, deepening itself, finding the pressure it needs to move through whatever comes next. Your soul is stabilizing what it has already received before it can hold what's coming next. There is wisdom in this that the modern world, with its emphasis on constant productivity and visible progress, has almost entirely forgotten. Even the greatest rivers in the world have pools. Even the most powerful tides have moments of slack water. The pause between the outgoing and incoming tide, where everything seems still. That stillness is not absence. It is potential at its most concentrated. Be gentle with yourself here. This phase is sacred. Resist the voice that tells you to push harder, to produce more evidence of your awakening, to perform your spiritual progress for the reassurance of your watching mind. Simply be in the pool. Allow the stillness to do what only stillness can do. You may not see it yet, but people around you are already responding to the shift within you. This is one of the most quietly profound aspects of inner transformation. It radiates outward before you are even aware it is happening. You may have noticed that certain people seem to be drawn to you differently now. Strangers who share something unexpectedly personal. Old friends who reach out after long silences. New connections that appear with a quality of resonance that feels almost designed. You may have noticed that others are pulling away, not with hostility, but with a kind of quiet drift, as though they no longer quite know how to navigate the space you now occupy. Both of these things are happening for the same reason. Your frequency has shifted, and frequency, like the current of a river, carries things toward it and away from it, according to its nature. Maybe relationships have changed. Maybe certain places or conversations feel different, heavier or lighter than before. Pay attention to these subtleties. They are data. They are your energy field reporting back to you on what is resonant and what is no longer aligned. The conversations that used to feel stimulating and now feel draining are not necessarily evidence that something is wrong with those conversations or with the people having them. They may simply be evidence that you have moved into a different vibrational territory and the old frequencies no longer match where you are. This is not judgment. This is the natural physics of spiritual evolution. Currents change direction. Ecosystems reorganize themselves around new patterns of flow. You are part of a living, responsive system that is reorganizing itself around the truth of what you are. That's not coincidence. The waters of Sirius teach us that when one current changes direction, everything downstream is affected. Sirius, the star system that the ancient Egyptians called the soul of Isis, the celestial beacon whose heliacal rising marked the beginning of the sacred year, has long been understood by those who work with its teachings as a source of vast, compassionate intelligence, a transmission station, if you will, for frequencies of healing and remembrance that are designed to assist planetary evolution. When a soul aligned with those frequencies begins to shift, it does not shift in isolation. The shift propagates. It moves outward through the web of relationship and resonance in which that soul is embedded, touching everything it is in contact with, changing the quality of interaction in ways that may be subtle at first, but are anything but insignificant. You don't need to announce your transformation. You are already transmitting it. This is deeply important for those of you who carry the particular flavor of starseed energy that tends toward doubt and self-questioning. You do not need to have a dramatic awakening story. You do not need a moment of lightning bolt revelation to validate your experience. The quiet, steady, sometimes invisible transformation you are undergoing is every bit as real and every bit as powerful as anything that would make a compelling narrative. Your transmission is not diminished by its quietness. In fact, in many cases, the quieter transmissions carry deeper frequencies because they bypass the defenses of the listener's thinking mind and move directly into the resonance of the heart. And those who are meant to resonate with your frequency will find you. Trust this. The river does not worry about finding the sea. The current carries it there. This is the phase that often feels the hardest because it asks you to let go of things you've been carrying so long they feel like part of you. The invitation into release is perhaps the most demanding invitation on the spiritual path because what you are being asked to release does not feel like a burden in the ordinary sense. Burdens are heavy and we are glad to set them down. But the things you are being asked to release now, the identities, the stories, the emotional patterns, these feel like you. They feel constitutive of who you are. To release them feels, in the moment before release, like losing yourself, like disappearing. Beliefs about who you should be. These are the ones that were handed to you so early, by people you loved and needed, in a context where questioning them would have been too costly. The belief that you should be more practical, more understandable, more legible to the world. The belief that your sensitivity is a liability rather than a superpower. The belief that the vastness of what you feel and perceive is a problem to be managed rather than a gift to be cultivated. These beliefs settled into your energy field like sediment, and you built so much of your functioning life on top of them that they became invisible. You stopped seeing them as beliefs and started seeing them as reality. But they were never reality. They were stories, and stories, no matter how old, can be revised. Expectations that were placed on you by a world that didn't understand what you are. The weight of this particular burden is unique to those who came here carrying something that the surrounding culture had no framework to recognize. You were measured against standards that were never designed with you in mind, evaluated against templates that simply could not accommodate the full spectrum of what you are. And because you were young and because the need for belonging is one of the most primal human needs, you tried. You tried to meet those standards. You contracted yourself to fit the available space. You learned to present a version of yourself that could be understood, accepted, applauded, and you tucked the larger version of yourself away somewhere quiet and private, visiting it only when you were alone, only when it felt safe. Emotional weight that belonged to others, but settled into your field because you were sensitive enough to absorb it. This is the particular gift and particular burden of the highly sensitive soul. You feel not only your own emotions, but the emotions of those around you. You have walked into rooms and felt their entire emotional history. You have sat with grieving people and felt their grief move through your own body. You have absorbed, often without realizing it, the anxiety of your parents, the suppressed anger of your culture, the unprocessed trauma of the collective field. And over time, if you were never taught to distinguish your own energy from the energy of others, all of that accumulated in your field as though it were yours. It is not yours. You have permission to set it down. All of it. The river doesn't carry every stone it passes. It lets them sink to the bottom and keeps flowing. You can keep flowing. You are not late. You are not behind. Let this land fully, because so many of you are carrying a quiet, persistent sense that you should be further along, that the awakening should have happened sooner, that the clarity should have arrived by now, that you have somehow missed a window that was meant for you. This sense of spiritual lateness is one of the most common and most unnecessary forms of suffering on the path. It is rooted in the assumption that there is a linear timeline against which your spiritual progress can be measured, that there is a correct schedule and you are running behind it. The delays, the detours, the years of not understanding what you were feeling, none of it was wasted. Not a single confused day, not a single seemingly unproductive season, not a single relationship that didn't work out the way you hoped, not a single path that led you somewhere other than where you expected to go. Everything was preparation. Everything was the curriculum, even when, especially when, it didn't look like one. In the Sirian records, there is no such thing as a late awakening. There is only the perfect moment, and yours is unfolding right now. The tide doesn't rush, but it always arrives. Consider the tide for a moment. The tidal pull is one of the most powerful forces on this planet, capable of moving billions of tons of ocean water across vast distances on a schedule so precise that the most advanced instruments simply confirm what the waters already know. And the tide does not hurry. The tide moves at exactly the rate that the gravitational dance between Earth, Moon, and Sun requires it to move. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be delayed. It arrives at the exact moment its arrival is cosmically determined. You are like this. Your awakening is moving at the rate that the gravitational dance of your soul's journey requires. And it will arrive. It is already arriving at exactly the moment that is written in the deep mathematics of your particular incarnation. Your mission was never about doing something extraordinary by the world's standards. This may be one of the most liberating recognitions available to a starseed who has spent years wondering what their purpose is, scanning the horizon for the grand assignment, the world-altering event that will finally make sense of everything they've been through. The world's definition of extraordinary involves visible impact, measurable results, recognizable achievement. It involves doing things that can be pointed to, described, but the kind of extraordinary that a starseed is here to embody is quieter, stranger, and far more fundamental than any of that. It was about being present, fully, authentically present, in a way that only a soul with your specific codes can be. The ancient ones who built the temples by the Nile understood this. The most powerful act is not the grand gesture, but the quiet alignment of the soul with its true frequency. The priests and priestesses of the ancient mystery schools were not valued primarily for what they could do. They were valued for what they could be, for the quality of presence they could hold, for their ability to become a living tuning fork, attuned to frequencies that the ordinary world could not access, and through that attunement, to make those frequencies available to the people around them. You are this. You are not a performer of spiritual acts. You are a carrier of spiritual frequency. And the most profound thing you can do is not to act from that frequency, but to be it. You don't need to figure out your entire mission today. You just need to be here, fully here, in this breath, in this moment, with this particular quality of presence that no one else in the entire history of this world can bring, because no one else carries precisely the combination of codes, experiences, wounds, gifts, and rememberings that you carry. You are irreplaceable in a way that is not about ego. It is about the unique vibrational contribution that only your specific soul can make. And let the current carry you to where you're meant to go. Rivers do not navigate. They flow, and in their flowing, they find their way to the sea with absolute inevitability. Trust the current of your own becoming. You're not lost. You never were. And there is a tenderness in this truth that deserves to be received slowly, to be allowed to settle into the parts of you that have been holding the fear of lostness for a very long time. You chose to forget, not because you were weak, but because the kind of awakening you're here to experience required you to find your way back from the deepest depth. There is no shallow awakening that can do what a deep one can do. There is no awakening that travels only through pleasant, well-lit territory that arrives carrying the kind of wisdom that can truly serve others who are also in the dark. You went to the depths, not as punishment. You went to the depths as preparation, and everything you found there, every fear, every grief, every moment of confusion, every relationship that cracked you open, every night that seemed too long to survive, all of it was the education of your particular soul. Like a pearl that can only form under pressure, in darkness at the bottom of the ocean. What you are becoming could only be shaped by exactly what you've been through. The pearl is perhaps the most perfect natural symbol for starseed awakening. It begins as an irritant, a grain of sand, something foreign and uncomfortable that the oyster did not ask for and does not initially welcome. But the oyster, rather than expelling the irritant, does something extraordinary. It responds to it. Layer by layer, it coats the irritant with a substance called nacre, a crystalline material of breathtaking iridescence. And over time, what began as discomfort becomes something of extraordinary beauty and value. This is your story. The discomforts, the intrusions, the unexpected and unwelcome circumstances that created pressure in your life. These are the irritants around which the nacre of your wisdom, your compassion, your depth has been layering itself. The pearl is forming. It has been forming all along, and it is luminous. Every moment of confusion was the water working on you, smoothing away what didn't belong, revealing what was always there underneath. Water is one of the most patient shapers of form in the natural world. It does not attack the stone. It simply flows and flows and flows. And in its flowing, it rounds every rough edge, softens every sharp protrusion, polishes every surface until what remains is the essential beauty of the stone, revealed. Your confusion has been the water. Your uncertainty has been the current. And what is being revealed, slowly, organically, with the unhurried precision of a natural process, is the essential beauty of who you actually are. You are not here to fit into this world. You're here to gently, quietly, powerfully remind it of something it forgot. This is perhaps the most important sentence in the entire transmission, because so much of the suffering of the awakening soul comes from trying, desperately, exhaustingly, to fit, to contort the enormous, luminous, ancient thing that you are into the shape of what this particular culture, in this particular moment in history, recognizes and rewards. And it never quite works. It was never going to work, because you are not a puzzle piece looking for the right slot in an existing picture. You are a new color that the picture does not yet know it needs. And the fact that you're hearing this right now, that you stayed until this moment, that tells everything about where you are. There is something profound in the act of staying, in the willingness to keep listening when part of you might have found reasons to turn away. The soul that stayed, the soul that is still here, still open, still allowing these words to reach whatever tender, awake places exist within. That soul is more ready than it knows. Not because everything is resolved, not because all the questions have been answered or all the fog has cleared, but because readiness is not the absence of uncertainty. Readiness is the willingness to move forward in the presence of it. You're ready, not because everything is perfect, but because you're still here. And that, dear one, is the most powerful thing a starseed can do. Tonight, if it feels right, place your hand over your heart and say quietly, I remember who I am. I trust the waters that carried me here. I am ready to flow into what comes next. Let that affirmation be not merely words, but a vibrational act, an attunement of your conscious will with the deeper intelligence that has been guiding your journey all along. The heart beneath your hand holds more wisdom than the mind will ever be able to fully catalog. The waters that have carried you here have been flowing since before you took your first breath on this earth. And what comes next, what the current is already moving you toward, is something more beautiful than the fog of this moment can allow you to see. Trust it anyway. Trust yourself. You were made for exactly this. Before you go, leave one word in the comments, just one, that describes what you felt during this message. Then find someone else's word and respond with encouragement. This isn't just a comment section. It's a space where starseeds recognize each other, and that recognition carries more power than you know. If something in this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you'd like to keep receiving these transmissions, subscribe. The waters of Sirius will carry us to the next one. You're not just watching, you're remembering. This is your space, and I'm grateful you were here.